I would say the current women's rights movement is about making sure that men and women and people all across the gender binary are treated equally.
Well, I think that it's currently about keeping the freedoms that we already have in place instead of sliding backwards. Because I think that we are about to lose a lot of freedoms, which is very disheartening.
Well, I think the number one thing is about equality, that there's equal pay, equal rights, that everybody has an opportunity to succeed equally between men and women. Right now, a big issue is really about equal pay for the same kind of work and equal rights. Just recently, there was some controversial decisions made about reproductive rights for women, and some really big discussions about who should be making those decisions and how those decisions are made. In this case, it's pretty interesting because the people who made those decisions happen to be all men making decisions about women, and there's a lot of question about should that be happening.
No, I don't think there's gender equality in America at all. And I think it's a very complex reason why there isn't. I think it has to do with the way our society works. I don't think that women have been valued traditionally in the same way that men have. They're not paid as much money. They're not regarded in the same way that men are. So no, I don't think there's gender equality in America.
I do not think currently men and women are treated equally in America.
And why?
I think that's a complicated question. I think that there is a history of women being sent into specific types of service jobs, specific types of jobs that are allowed, specific type of roles within the family, and that has made it so that that's the expectation for everybody, even if that's not what all women want. And this applies to men too, that men have specific roles that they are supposed to have, and it's not always the role they want to have.
A feminist, I think, is somebody who is fighting for those rights. Someone who feels like it's important to make sure that women are supported, that all of the things that we just talked about in terms of equality and pay and rights, that those things are fought for and that those things are implemented. So I would say an advocate for those kind of rights.
What?
What is a feminist? Ooh, that's a tough one. I think a feminist is someone who really respects and understands the value of women in this world.
Well, now they are, but back then not really. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. In some situations it could be, but in some not. If a boy is a president, not only boys are smart, other people can be smart, and not only boys can make the world better, but girls can too. Yes, because if a girl can do something, a boy can do something with their minds, because that's where most of your intelligence come from. So yeah, one person can do something, the other can't. We're all equal.
It's not like every one gender is locked on to being one thing. Many other people can do what they want in life.
What are you doing to support gender equality?
So I'm fairly active in social media, and so I really follow and stay up to date on things that are happening. I also have a group of friends who are very active in a lot of different causes. So I try to connect with people who have similar views that I do around pushing issues around equality. And so I would say I'm fairly actively involved. I contribute to campaigns of elected officials who I think have similar visions that I have for around equality, and I get involved in protests occasionally, marches, things that happen like that. And so I try to use my voice to help make a difference in that way.
I think that I try to make sure I treat my male students and my female students and any students that aren't identifying with either of those things the same. I think I also try to make sure that if some voices aren't being heard because of the way that society treats that gender, that we make sure to hear those voices within the classroom.
Well, I try to be an upstander whenever I see inequality for women. I'm a woman, so it's something that's very much at the top of my head. It's in the forefront of my mind all the time. I try to correct inequality when I see it in my daily life, and sometimes that's difficult. And sometimes it's difficult to see it going on all around you because it's kind of invisible in a lot of ways. It's almost like the nose on your face. It's there all the time, but you're not aware of it. It's the same thing with gender inequality. It's all around us, and we really need to pay attention. And I think about that all the time when I'm in school.